Movie remakes are completely unnecessary. Hey, what's up, Nerd fam? This is your boy Gashawn. I want to welcome you to Enter the Nerd. Okay, here's the topic for today. Remakes. Specifically in movies. We might venture off into some video game stuff a little bit, but right now the topic will really be about movies, and here's why. That seems to be a gigantic fad, craze. Let's take something that maybe was made 30 or 40 years ago and remake it now. Now, some people might go, just listening to me describe it like that, they might go, that might not be the worst thing. Why? Here's the thing. You have to listen to the reasoning behind a lot of these remakes. For example, whether you have Little Mermaid, a lot of this is happening in Disney, by the way. Disney's like the leader when it comes to remakes that are pretty trash. Now, here's why. It's not like a remake, and I'll say this. Let me add some context to what I think, in my opinion, might be an acceptable reason for a remake. Imagine if a story is really, really good, and you go, you know what? They were really limited with technology back in the 70s. I think if I take that same story and make it... Damn, that was crazy. I think if I take that same story and add today's technology, I could do something really creative with this that they couldn't do a long time ago. I'm down with that because you're not trying to change the story. For example, I think Dune is an excellent remaking of that, because obviously the acting is actually better, right? But the core story is exactly the same. They're still borrowing from the Frank Herbert novels, and they look amazing. Like the worm looks great, the fight scenes look great, the Dune, like these new Dune movies, they look excellent. I think that's an excellent example of how a remake should be. Right now though, remakes are meant for people to take a movie that was made in the 50s and try to apply their sense of morality to it and go, well, I know this was made in the 50s, but we need to make this connect to people in 2023. Why? I mean, do we not have the ability to compartmentalize and go, well, this movie was made in the 50s, so I know this has nothing to do with the time we're living in now. Are we saying that? There are plenty of movies that I've seen that have nothing to do with the time frame that I'm living in. I can just watch it for what it is. I mean, isn't that the point of art? Art is made with what that person had in mind there at that moment. That was their interpretation of what it should look like. Cool. Now, why are you taking that same idea and going, well, if this movie were made in 2023, this is what it would really be like? Why? That's not creative, and the movie wasn't. So why do you feel the need to remake it? And then say, well, this stuff was wrong, like they didn't represent anybody here. Okay, that doesn't change the fact that that movie is still a classic. That doesn't change that person's mindset that they had when it came to making it, nor should it, right? You can just make your own film that does represent the groups that you feel like it should. But no, instead, they do something a little bit more sinister. They take a movie that already has an established fan base and hope they can lure them all in, and then put whatever modern day tropes they want in the movie. The issue is, these things keep on failing. Especially now. Now, I'll say this. Even though I'll say failing, The Little Mermaid still making almost about $1 billion. Like The Lion King, which, by the way, Lion King wasn't about a whole bunch of tropes. The new one, it was just weird watching them, and that CGI was very weird. But there are a lot of other things that are getting remade that really just aren't very good, and even adapted. Now, the adaptation is something different. We can talk about that differently. But to remake things for modern day, for these audiences, why is that necessary? It's not like only the visual. Look at Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that they have right here. What is the point of doing what you're doing here? So not even all the dwarfs are dwarfs. That's number one. Yeah, they're of every ethnicity under the sun, it looks like. According to the script, there's going to be no Prince Charming present in this film, and it's because they want to focus on her wanting to be a strong leader. what story is this? That wasn't Snow White. So why didn't you just make a whole different story? Fuck the dwarves, fuck the Disney stuff. Why didn't you just make your own story about a princess that wants to be a leader? Because they're scared that no one will want to see that. Because they actually can't construct an original story, which is why they're borrowing 85% of it from Snow White and then inserting in the thing that they just want you to see. They don't have any talent, which is why they're focusing on all these remakes. They are not talented enough to create an original story that happens to have their talking points in it and that they can digest, that you can digest it and not feel slapped in the face with it. Seriously. It's why all these remakes are always centered on some type of social ill. Well, this one didn't have, well, the old film didn't have enough women, so I put enough more. The old one didn't have enough black people, so we'll put enough more black people in it. How about you just make the movie that you want that has more women, more black people, Hispanic, whatever. Just do that. It doesn't have to even touch these things here. But they are creatively bankrupt. They don't know why they do know why they're doing this. They're trying to get the established fan base while also catering to people who will probably never see this film. Which is why some of them are tanking. Even some of their new original works, like Elementals, even though Elementals is obviously not a remake of anything, those tropes are not enough to carry a lot of these films. Because, once again, they're not talented enough to do that. Now, when it comes to, like, remaking, like, video games, I can absolutely understand that, especially if it's a really good game that came out in, like, 94. But, like, you're like, if I had the graphics for the PS5, if I had that engine, I can make that game something amazing. I'm good with that. Not good with, like, the Final Fantasy VII remake where they're literally trying to take it in a whole different direction. I don't understand why they didn't have to do that. Why didn't they just make Final Fantasy VII but just updated graphics and just keep it like that? See, they'll do that same mentality sometimes with that as well. I just want to put my stamp on it. I know there was 1950s version of this movie or 1990s version of this, but I just gotta put my own stamp on it. Why is it necessary? Why can't the original movie just stay what it was, and then you make something new and let that new thing become its own classic? That tells you a lot. And as a person who's a writer myself, I would always want my stuff to stand on its own. I would not want mine to just be popular because it's related to something else. You get me? But yeah, that's really it. I think remakes could have a good spot if it is still to not fix what was in the past, because that's what happens. Is this remake fixes the mistakes. It's like, it's not really a mistake. They didn't do what they did by accident. That was just their point of view at the time. But you want to retroactively change that. Oh, well, there weren't enough. Whatever. It could work if you're just trying to update visuals and things like that. Like, oh, they didn't know about fight scenes in this one, so let me make sure. Like, for example, if I were to give an example of one in the realm of stuff that I like, let's just say the MCU, even though right now they're not doing too good, were to remake another X-Men movie. Like, they would just name it X-Men, to replace what happened in, like, the 2000 movie. And they did it, like, right, had really good costumes. They were more accurate. Maybe even this movie takes place after their own First Class, I'd be okay with that remake because that one made a lot of mistakes by way of a continuity. It just did. It just made a lot of mistakes by way of that. But because this is a whole different universe, you can kind of get away with that as well too. But it is what it is, and that's just me. It's nothing about social things. I'm not going like, how come this person wasn't? Except for, I'll say this, except for Storm. Could you please get a Storm that actually looks like Storm? Like, I think that's the only thing that I'll talk about race stuff is, can we get one that actually like looks accurate? But I think not just Storm, I think everyone should look accurate. We should get a shorter Wolverine. He shouldn't be like 6'4". Little things like that. The accuracy. That's really where I'm pointing to, right? If that's what we're doing in a remake. But if you're just going, I just need this to cater to me, it's so egotistical. The reason for these remakes are entirely egotistical. But whatever, that's just me. Let me know what you think. Do you enjoy these remakes? Do you have other reasons why remakes should be made? Do you like all the ones that are coming out now? Let me know and let's talk about it. Enter the Nerd.